Not stand how the news has been dogging Gen Z and calling them lazy for not wanting to work a 9 to 5 for the rest of their lives. Let me put it in perspective for everybody who's a little confused here, okay? I work 5 days out of the week, 40 hours a week, okay? I do not make enough to live on my own. I would not make enough to pay rent, water, electric, and eat all by myself. I would not be capable of doing that. 20 years ago when you were getting started, you could live on your own. 20 years ago when you first started, you were able.
Gen X and millennials already gave the 9 to 5 gig a shot, and it fell apart miserably for most of them. Why would Gen Z want to sign up with the same false promises?
Let me add another perspective here. You've been working for 20 years. You have 20 years of working experience behind your belt. You have 20 years of experience in a career that has allowed you to gain raises, to get more money, to profit you in an economy that you created. You can sit here and you can call Gen Z lazy all you want, but I've been working my tail end off just to barely make it by. And respectfully, I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. I don't want to work my tail end off, wasting all of my life working just to barely be able to pay my bills. And that is what you created, not Gen Z. We're just here getting started. You've been doing it for the last 20 years. You tell me how it got ruined.
I think it's like odd that people are dunking on her because like I guess it's like it's weird to like frame it from a Gen Z problem because this is a consistent problem under capitalism. And yes, generational politics, specifically like this kind of generational divide, is yet another way for liberals to try and mystify class politics. That's it. That's how this works. Same principle behind the idea of like, oh, upper middle income or middle class. Like all of these concepts were created with the express purpose of trying to mystify class dynamics, which are pretty apparent, pretty obvious. And it's very successful, if I do say so myself. I use it sometimes as well, colloquially, right? So overall, what she's saying is correct. I don't think that it's a controversial take to be like, hey, working at Walmart, as a worker at Walmart, I shouldn't have to work 40 hours and still not be able to make ends meet and still not be able to live by myself. That's a non-controversial perspective. Anyone that yells at that is a buffoon. Anyone that yells at that quite literally fails to capture their own conditions. They are doing what I like to always call peasant brain. They're doing the "me lord" is what they're doing. They're going around and saying, "No, me lord, you deserve all the grain. You deserve it, me lord. The other peasants are hiding the grain from you. It wasn't that bad of a bountiful winter." That's what you're doing. You're advocating against other fellow peasants, okay? You're sucking up to the Lord. That's it. She correctly identifies America in the realization that she's never going to get out of that cycle of working for nothing. Hit her while she's taking on this video is amazing. She's correct. While alienation doesn't exist for everyone, it always hurts the next generation more. That's what the late-stage capitalism necessitates. Gen Alpha will say the same, and it will be just as correct. Yes. I mean, its conditions worsen relatively to the other people. And the reality of the matter is that this is a problem that every generation has experienced time and time again. I do think that people definitely have... They do definitely have like rose-colored nostalgia glasses on. I mean, there's certain aspects of like American existence that have on paper gotten better for a broader percentage of the audience. However, overall, we still haven't solved this very serious problem, which is if you work 40 to 50 hours a week, you should be able to live on your own. That is crazy. It's ironic because she works at Walmart, which is the greatest welfare recipient of all time in the United States of America. As a company, a gigantic percentage of their workforce works on food stamps. Like they don't get paid enough. And Walmart adjusts their wages with that in mind. They get the food stamps from the federal government or from their state governments, and then they turn around and use those food stamps at Walmart. Okay? What a way to double book. Oh my Lord. Additionally messed up when you think about the reality that the Walton family, I believe, still maintain like 50% ownership over Walmart, which means that like we are directly giving them a tremendous amount of money. Like the federal government is directly subsidizing a ginormous amount to the tens of billions in their net worth that they continuously grow year over year. Whew.
We can sit here and we can call Gen Z lazy all you want, but you let the economy turn into what it did. You let it all run to hell. And now it's Gen Z's fault because we don't want to work to fix your mistakes.
Anyway, I work 2 jobs, was essentially around 50 to 60 hours a week. I'm also a full-time student. This late-stage capitalism cycle is brutal. Yeah. Crazy statistic. In the UK 20 years ago, the majority of 18 to 30-year-olds lived with their kids. Now the majority of 18 to 30-year-olds live with their parents. Yep. I'm 37, 20 years into this madness, and it just never changes, only gets worse. I'm not interested in struggling to meet some arbitrary deadline set by someone else to just pay my bills. I'll forever be anti-work. Yeah, I don't know. Anger is an honest emotion, but I think our anger is misdirected at generational politics when it's more of a systematic issue on how we organize the economy, in my opinion. Yes, I am not a believer in generational politics. That is precisely the reason why I told Cenk what I told him, that it is a foolhardy, silly way of analysis that will leave you shocked when you find out that there are still very much, a 50-50 split between the two different parties, no matter what. I've shared this here before, but it's relevant again. I have my doctorate in pharmacy. I left retail pharmacy because I couldn't even afford to pay my $316,000 in loans on a salary of $120K while living in DC. So now I make $205K and was forced to move to DC to work in person at a desk job. I pay $3,200 in rent in a 2-bedroom bathroom and lose $2.5K a month in loans. I am so far away from my house, and I'm almost 32. Yeah, and you're one of the highest trained professionals overall. I was talking to my mom about this the other night when she was talking about how lazy her Gen Z coworkers are. I asked her how much her Gen Z coworkers make currently. She said 40K. Then I asked her how much she made when she was their age working in that same job they're working in now. She said 40K. And Gen Xers and Boomers wonder why Gen Zs hate working. They used to call Gen X the me generation. Same story every generation. Yes, generational politics are unchanging because the real back and forth in politics are not on generational or on different generations, but instead they are done on class lines. The dynamic between the capital owning class and the wage laborer class is still the same. The needs are still the same. Obviously, it gets a little bit more muddied with like professional, with the concept of like professional work and things of that nature. But overall, it's still, albeit reductive, still something that you can point to as your basis, as your foundational politics. Anyway, our work at a lab company announced they were giving everyone a raise to help match inflation prices. They only give us a 50-cent raise hourly. Nice. I mean, there's a lot you can do with that. Curious on your take, if Twitch wasn't paying you enough, what do you think you'd be doing currently? I don't know. So, yeah, nobody wants to work anymore is also another take that is existed in perpetuity. That's another thing. Like, that also doesn't go away, right? But blaming something as nebulous and hard to grasp as the economy is way more difficult than just blaming your parents or grandparents, especially when they're complaining about how lazy you are. Yeah, I think, like, older generations say Gen Z are lazy and they suck. Younger generations, like Gen Z, say the older generations ruined the economy. And the reality is that generational politics are silly. I use it colloquially for funsies, but overall, they're silly. It's just it's just a way to mask the truth. The real truth is class politics. As a worker, you have goals. You want to work the least amount of hours for the most amount of pay. It's perfectly normal to feel this way. This is a normal thing, okay? I'm talking about this from the perspective of self-interest. Your boss, on the other hand, the capital owner, person who owns the job, owns the workplace, owns the business, wants you to work for the most amount of hours for the least amount of pay that they can get away with paying you. This is the inherent contradiction that causes the division and also the antagonism between the two classes. Same thing happened with your parents as well, okay? That's it.